InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Scaughdt, who's also known as the Peace Pilgrim. Welcome, Scaughdt.
Greetings.
Scaughdt has been on his pilgrimage since 1995. He has traveled to all corners of the globe in search of the truth. Scaughdt has given away most of his material possessions and accepts no money for his services. Scaughdt said that this peace pilgrimage phase of his journey began 3 years ago on the big island of Hawaii. My first question, Scaughdt, is what is a peace pilgrim?
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's the question I get asked most often, and that's the hardest one to answer because there's no real title that fits what I'm doing. It's just the best term available. I don't call myself the peace pilgrim, but one of the many peace pilgrims. Most of us know what a pilgrim is, which is someone who takes a spiritual journey to find themselves within, or to harmonize their true self with their surroundings.
Well, I was thinking of the pilgrims that came to the United States, but they did come for religious reasons.
Basically, yes.
Yes.
A peace pilgrim is a little different term. It's someone who, instead of having a specific goal in mind or a specific length of journey, they have dedicated their lives to awakening the masses, for lack of a better term, awakening people from their apathy and making the truths of harmony and peace and love practical for people who might have forgotten that they are practical. And that's what I've dedicated my life to doing.
Okay. Yeah. And since you are a peace pilgrim, how do you know when you are at peace?
That's a great question. Well, most of us can feel it here in our guts, which is one of the centers of our being. But that's not necessarily where I feel it. Where I feel at one, and when I know that I'm on the right path, I feel it in my heart. It's a warmth. It's not the butterflies that we associate with in love. That has nothing to do with that at all. And it's not mental peace where you're at calm or you're experiencing physical pleasure. It's felt by me on my journey only during times when I've been selflessly caring for others. And while mental peace and physical pleasure are fine, and even the feelings of in love are fine, that the real gift I have to share with people is whenever they wish, there's a deeper, calmer, more level of peace that anyone can experience if they choose to live for others as opposed to merely for themselves. And that's when I know. And
are there times where you find you're not at your best, where you're not at peace?
Yeah, all the time. I'm a human being. I'm in a human machine, which I affectionately call it the machine. And I feel there's a big S, Scaughdt, that resides in here, or energetically, and it is traveling in this mind body, this fleshly mind body that has a different agenda, right? The mind body is primarily run by the reptile brain back here, which is fight or flight and friend or foe and take care of yourself first and others second.
It works with habits, rituals, routines.
Exactly.
I know a little bit about the reptilian brain.
Yeah, we all do, I think. Yeah. And I certainly do, still do. And I stopped fighting it a long time ago. I became thankful for it. I realized that without the reptile brain, our species probably wouldn't have survived up to this point. And yet, I realized that there is more to living. Maybe not to life, but to living.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned the brain, but the reptile brain is the oldest part of our brain. Then comes the limbic system, the emotional part, and then the neocortex, the latest part of our brain to evolve, and that deals with reasoning.
And choice, which is basically what my message revolves around, is the reminding people that they do have a choice. And as opposed to building their lives on making excuses for their behaviors, which are instinct-based or self-preservative-based, just pausing for a quarter of a second is long enough to turn on your neocortex and be able to choose to be selfless and care for others as opposed to for yourself.
Now, in the bio I talked about how you never charge any money for your services.
Right.
What kind of services do you provide?
Basically, whatever I'm asked to do. I keep it pretty simple. Of course, it's service, it's not helping. So if someone were to come to me and say, I want to commit suicide, will you load my gun for me? I would say that's not serving you. I would decline. But anything I can reasonably and humbly believe can aid someone's journey to self-awareness or to peace, I do. If it's watching their kids, mowing their lawn, helping them across the street, anything. And sometimes...
Well, what are some of the things that you've done? I'm sure you've done all those things.
All of those.
Yes.
And I've worked at times in a law firm on an innocence project, very few hours, but a few, and asked to help get innocent, wrongly convicted individuals out of prison. And the most important service I offer is just the way I'm living, I believe. Not to say that everyone should emulate the way I'm living. I don't advocate that at all. Just by living the way I'm living.
Well, how are you living?
Well,
where do you get, if you don't take money for your services, where do you get money for food? Where do you get money for shelter? Where do you sleep?
I don't. Yeah. It's pretty simple. I eat when offered food and I sleep when offered shelter. And surprisingly, in the beginning part of the journey, I spent many a night on the street or on the beach or on a bench, and that was really no problem. And
well, if you're in Hawaii, I can see it's no problem. But if you're in Chicago in December, that can be a problem.
You'd be surprised what the human body can do if it is not worrying about itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize here we are again in an area that we've been taught is not true. We've been taught that you have to be warm and have a certain amount of food and water, etc. And to a degree that's true for the machine. And yet it is stunning how little of those things you need to be completely at peace once you choose to shift your motivations from self-centered ones to selfless ones. And so Hawaii had its own set of challenges sleeping outside. It's never easy sleeping outside. And it's not easy living with no money, of course. I was raised like everyone else with the knowledge or the belief that without money you'll starve, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm still confronted with those fears. But I realize they're fears. And I realize those fears are not based in truth, based on the walk I've taken. People are 99.999, if not 100% good. And we are, as a species, looking for ways to do selfless good. And because our society doesn't encourage that, I am a gift to people in that I'm a very easy target for their latent altruism. Yeah, it's a gift both ways.
Well, living in poverty is nothing new.
Right.
Monks do it,
right,
and they've done it since time immemorial.
Right.
Especially in India, I'm aware of monks. Mm-hmm. They would beg for the food and teach humbleness.
Right.
What else have you learned? Well, I assume you've learned some humbleness.
Well, that was forced upon me, thank heavens. I wasn't the most humble of people. I had my own set of preconceptions, and the main reason I engaged this experiment was to confront those and to have them shattered, and they were. And the way I look at it is if I went through that discomfort and came up with some beautiful realizations, that I would share that with others so they may not have to put their hand on the stove. Mm-hmm. They could see the fact that I have done it, and maybe they don't have to. And they can see that they don't have, no matter how they're living, with it. I'm not advocating giving up your job or giving up your house or your money. The truth I've found is it doesn't matter how much material possessions you have. It matters what you do with them. It matters what your intent is with possessing them. Mm-hmm. And that's something that applies to everybody from CEO down to a home-free individual on the street. So.
Okay, and can you describe various types of intent?
I only know of two. Mm-hmm. My journey has made it relatively simple. I see every moment as a choice between actions that are self-centered and actions that are not. Mm-hmm. And the self-centered ones are grounded in fear, self-survival, instinct, and the alternative are grounded in love. And it's every moment you have a choice between doing something loving and doing something fear-based and self-centered.
Well, there's actually a book written by a psychiatrist, Gerald Jampolsky, Love is Letting Go of Fear. Have you read that book?
I haven't, but the title makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, this is what you just said is exactly what Dr. Jampolsky was advocating, and he has a wonderful center for attitudinal healing in California.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's one thing in my journey is I did a lot of reading on the journey. The truths that I espoused to people were experienced first, and then the reading came later, which was kind of neat to be affirmed. And no matter what I read, no matter what author or what religion or spiritual belief, it all came back to this dichotomy, to this choice we all have in every moment. Am I going to be a human or an animal? Nothing against animals, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you practice any form of meditation or prayer?
I do, not as a prerequisite to the path. I do it to enhance my sense of gratitude and wonder. I think it makes it easier to serve others when you actively choose to remember that we are one, that every stranger I encounter is my brother and sister, and that the only reason keeping us from being best friends is a lack of time together. And when I meditate and pray every morning and evening, it's to remind myself of that truth.
And how long do you pray and meditate in the morning and evening?
As long as it's right. I tend to avoid any kind of conscriptions or parameters around my behavior. Love, to be powerful, has to be completely volitional, so I don't make myself vow or promise to do anything. As long as meditating is going well, I meditate half hour, hour. If it takes 2 seconds and I'm dialed in, then I can stand up and go serve someone, and every day it's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you affiliated with any particular religion, or did you study any particular religion in the past?
I was affiliated with several, as in part of the experiment was dipping my feet into those waters. And
is it okay to mention those religions?
Oh, sure. Buddhism and a little bit of Judaism, paganism, atheism, which I consider to be a religion. And of course, intimately, I studied the Bible. I wouldn't say I was a Christian, but I certainly have become a follower of the way, following
the way of Christ, or
the way of any Christ. Christ is a term meaning one who has experienced and is living the truth. So, Lao Tzu is a Christ, and Buddha is a Christ, and I've studied intimately the teachings of Jesus the Christ, and.
I don't know if my rabbi would consider himself a Christ.
You know, in the moments when he's selflessly serving, he is, as are we all. You know, it's a moment to moment. It's not a journey. That's one thing I had to release. It's not a journey to enlightenment, this merit badge, this glowing halo that you always have, you know. That's what we all aspire to somehow in these self-help books and, you know, when can I be enlightened? Or when can I be saved? And what I've found is each moment, your choice is independent from your past and future choices. And in the moment when you least want to help someone and you do anyway, you are enlightened. It doesn't get any higher than that. And then the challenge is to make the next choice and the next choice and the next choice and string a life together of enlightenment. But it's challenging, right? Because our brains want us to do other things.
So why have you chosen to live and serve as a pilgrim?
Well, that's interesting. I had been working, this experiment in Hawaii went for 2 years, and it became pretty clear what I had to share, that selfless service worked, that it was never dangerous, that you were never safer when you were actively loving somebody else, even if they were being aggressive towards you. And I knew that was an important thing to share in the world, that it wasn't just a coffee klatch theme, love your neighbor or love your enemy, that it worked. But I didn't know how to do it until I picked up a book by the Peace Pilgrim. She was also a Peace Pilgrim. But
you're talking about Cindy...
I still don't know her name. It could be her name. I know she walked the United States from 1953 to 1981 without possessions, just the clothes on her back, living in faith.
Not the most recent Peace Pilgrim, the
Not
one who's against the Iraqi war.
Yeah, I don't think you can really be a peace pilgrim by being against anything. If you're going to be anti-war, war is going to entrench itself and get stronger. You have to be pro-peace. And the woman whose book I read was pro-peace. And if anyone is interested, it's one of the more brilliant books I've read of the hundreds that I have. It's peacepilgrim.org. And it's a nonprofit organization. They send the book for free in honor of her walk. And it's absolute genius, in my humble opinion. And as soon as I read that book, I knew this is how. Just because it's such an unusual way of life, as opposed to me saying, hey, I've got a neat idea. people say, "What are you doing?" And they ask me, and then we can have dialogue, then we can share.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what are the similarities you have with this Peace Pilgrim you read about?
Many, many. She actually did walk against war, pro-peace, during several wars, during her almost 30-year walk. And I'm not anti-Iraq war. I am pro-peace and pro-love. And it's not a political thing with me. It is a person-to-person, each individual for their own life, you can find peace kind of thing. The similarities we have are the way we're walking, I guess. I'm not yet walking as purely as she did, meaning with no possessions. I still have a few things that I'm at every stop getting rid of more and more things. At some point I would be...
What's the hardest to get rid of?
What's the hardest to get rid of?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I couldn't drop right now, and I could, of course, but it seems not right to, is I do have a laptop computer, and I'm writing all this into several books.
Oh, don't feel bad. I met a Buddhist priest who lived in a cave in Thailand for several years, and he had a computer.
Right. I mean, if you're...
And then I explained to him how he can hook up to internet using satellite phone. It's like he's taking all these notes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's not about what you own, it's what you do with it. And right now...
It's the intention, as you said.
I believe that wholeheartedly,
yes.
Literally. And so every day I'm writing when I'm not serving others, and with the intention that everything that I've learned and been blessed with would be in written form, to then leave everything behind, and then no matter what happened to me, it would be there.
Now, and I hope you're storing it on the internet, because if you're not, we can talk about it afterwards.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay. But this book about the 30-year Peace Pilgrim, did this woman, was it an autobiography or somebody wrote about her?
She did not write, and I also have changed my name often when I travel, and I keep the information about my past limited, because she was very determined that it was not about her. She didn't want people to make a religion or a cult out of her, that it was about the message, and it was the fact that she's no different from anybody else, she's just making different choices. And so she did not write the book, but she had many, many thousands of intimate contacts with folks, and many of whom, once she did pass on, they formed this foundation after she had died, and compiled notes from her speeches and her pamphlets that she had written, and made this beautiful book.
Mm-hmm. So you were telling about the similarities and about the limited number of possessions you have, but you said you weren't as pure. Any other similarities or differences, for that matter?
I mean, it gets right down to the message, and I believe our message is the same. And she says it's really, really simple, and I believe it is really simple. We tend to make life really complicated on being happy and being content, and it is incredibly simple. It's all a matter, at least in concept, and that is, do good for others. Love those, especially those who are treating you the least nice or the least appropriately. Those are the ones that really need our love.
Do you find that people are hostile and angry at you because you're not materialistic, you don't have a home, you don't have a paycheck?
I'm not that big of a threat, and people are hostile.
But you are a big guy.
I'm a big guy, and my message is very threatening to those who are clinging to getting what's theirs and having a relationship with balanced give and take, and I preach love that is giving-oriented and not taking it all. And people are threatened. I withdraw that. People whom I've encountered have tended to be a little threatened by the message. And some of them do respond with aggression, and that's fine.
What are some of the things people have said to you?
They tell me that it's not applicable, that it won't work in any kind of setting where aggression is involved. And, I have numerous personal experiences where it has worked. And in part of my message to folks, when blessed to present in a more formal setting, is talking about the psychology of why love works against aggression and the physics of why love works against aggression. And all of this harmonizes. You
want to talk a little bit about why love works against aggression?
I mean, we don't have much time, but generally it's relatively simple. People who are it revolves around the theory that people are not behaving in a vacuum. I've not met a single person born evil, and I can't think of a single example. And yet, people do evil things sometimes that are not nice or that cause pain. And they're doing them for a reason. And the reason they're doing them is to provoke a fear-based response. That's basic psychology. And so when you protect yourself, that's reasonable, and it's also fear-based. And it affirms their action. So even though you're protecting themselves and maybe refuting their aggression on the short term, on the long term, you're saying, you had an effect on me. You are powerful. Continue to be evil. Whereas when someone is coming towards you with an aggressive tone of voice or actually trying to assault you, and you come at them and say, I would really rather you did not make this mistake, and I have compassion for the pain you must be in and the confusion to be aggressive towards me right now. What can I do for you? I forgive you before you attack me, and I forgive you if you attack me again. It is such an irrational response, and it is coming with nothing from fear, but all from love, that the fear-based actor has one choice, and that is either to change and dampen their fear and their anger, or go find a victim somewhere else. And that's just, there's nothing mystical or spiritual about that at all. That's human behavior.
In therapeutic techniques, you learn surprise and shock. And
that's certainly shocking.
It's shocking, it's surprising, and what that does, it kind of opens neurological pathways to the brains. It opens consciousness, and people become aware of what they're doing.
And people, I've personally witnessed it, where people actually have awakened to the fact that they have a deeper good self within, that what they're doing is not right, and they calm down. And
do you ever feel lonely?
No, I don't.
Why not?
No, I don't. Because there's 7 billion people on the planet, and they're all my family. And that sounds like a cliche, and what the weird thing is, when you start living that way, whether you're being a pilgrim or not, anybody can do this. When you really start choosing, turning this off for just a little bit, takes a quarter of a second, just take a deep breath, turn this on, and choose to look at a stranger or a home-free person or someone yelling at you or the person serving you coffee in Starbucks or wherever as your brother or sister, and treat them accordingly, that it really does open up a whole new way of living life, not just looking at it. And I'm never lonely. Even when I'm alone in nature, I'm there with the spirit. I'm there with the trees, and they're my brothers and sisters too.
So was Hawaii your last stop before Chicago?
Oh no, I've been, Hawaii was until the winter of 2005. So for the last year and a half, I've been in Chattanooga and Tacoma, Washington, Seattle, Boise, Idaho, and then here.
Do you know where you're going to go after Chicago?
No.
So you don't know how long you're going to stay here?
No. I stay as long as I'm asked to serve, and right now I've been asked to stay and serve in Chicago through August, the end of August. And so at that point, I will open up and say, where to next? And it might be in Chicago. I would stay here as long as I can do some good.
Has your family members commented on your life path?
Yeah, they have. What
have they said?
Well, of course, and compassion for my parents. It's a little difficult when you have drilled into you what a good son is supposed to do. And we all have a vision of what that is. ABC, get a job, and
get married, create grandchildren,
get a house, own some land, and that's all fine. I'm not cutting that down at all. It's not what or it's why, And at the same time, I've been blessed with parents who are, I believe, noble, and they believe in morality, and they believe in goodness, and they believe in love, and they do understand what I'm doing and why, and they respect it. So that's been a blessing.
Have they read the book Peace Pilgrim?
I gave it to both of them because I knew I couldn't explain it in words, and I knew I gave that book to all of my closest friends and relatives, knowing they're the least likely to get it because they know me so well, right? So that makes it most difficult.
Can you mention where your hometown is?
You're looking at it, man.
You're from Chicago.
I'm from this stage.
Okay.
Right here, right now. That's the way I look at it. I have no more hometown.
Oh, okay.
It's where I'm at.
Okay. And then your parents, where are they at this moment?
My parents, where are they at? This is a quiz show, isn't it? You're getting to who I really am, huh? That's my parents are in the Southeast.
Okay.
I grew up in the Southeast.
Okay.
Of course, you're my father, so where are you from?
I'm from Chicago.
There you go. My dad is from Chicago.
I'm very, very proud of it. And so tell us, what sparked you to start your Peace Pilgrim?
That's a great question. I've always been kind of a seeker. So you read about some people, I don't know if this is genetically or had to do with my upbringing or whatever, but I've always really been interested in truth and morality and right action. But it was just a mental exercise up until 2001, 2002, when I decided to start putting it into practice and start experimenting. And I don't know what, I guess I just got fed up. I got fed up with reading the next self-help book and feeling just as meaningless as I did before the last 50. And having my friends tell me, why don't you just give up? That's just the way life is. And I finally said I could give up, but before I give up, I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm going to go take these truths and I'm going to push them to the max, even if it means I'll die, and I'm going to see if they hold water. And they did. They held water.
Well, I love the 2 rules of Zen. The 2 rules are, 1 is you start, and 2 is you never give up.
Right.
But the masters never said anything about setbacks, slip-ups, stumbling blocks, why everybody encounters setbacks, slip-ups, stumbling blocks.
Thank God for them.
But but once you start, what you have, now you're on rule number 2, just don't give up.
And then you realize that the setbacks are your greatest blessing, because that's when you get a chance to be human. And that's where this magic of Jesus comes in and says, you know, what good is it to love people who love you? You know, that's why you love your enemies, because it's difficult, it's powerful. And so now my setbacks, which still come regularly because I'm in the machine, now I can sometimes, when I'm dialed in, you know, and I remember, I can be powerfully human because it's so difficult, you know.
Well, Scaughdt, we have about 2 minutes left, and is there anything you want to zero in on or about your message?
I just would sum it up and tell folks that if you want to be happy with a capital H and you want to find contentment in your life, that there's a really easy way, and it is make a list of the 5 people in your life who are most annoying to you and go out and radically be nice to them with no expectation.
Well, and you know, you talked about selfless service. You know, I just think of parents. You know,
exactly.
You know, you have the children,
exactly.
And it's like,
you don't
I want to do what? And you know, it's like kids always come first.
You don't have to do anything stupendous. In our society, it is encouraged to take care of yourself first, and so the smallest act of kindness is very powerful. You can look at a stranger on the street in the eyes and smile, and that is powerful service in this country. So,
what is it? Random acts of kindness and senseless acts of
beauty. But they're not senseless and they're not random. Just be kind.
Okay, we've got. You can say one more statement. So what's that one last statement you want to make?
Love is real. It's real. It's not just a concept. And you just have to go do it. You just have to have the courage to go do it.
I would say being around you for the last few hours, you've only been taping for 30 minutes, I think you are the real deal. You know, you just have wonderful energy and a spirit. I wish you the best of luck. For more information about Scaughdt, the Inner Quest Show, the Infinity Foundation, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, good health and good spirits.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information about this show, our guests, Infinity Foundation, or any of our other programs, please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.